Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast that's playing video games like we're the ghost of Christmas past. I'm your host, David Lloyd, and this episode we'll be talking about some retro RPGs that have received a fresh coat of paint, and a few more that are going to get their time in the sun once again soon. Joining me for this adventure down the off-ramp of Square Enix's Merry Memory Lane is Jordan Rudick.
You saying off ramp makes me think of that meme with the car that's like
Yeah.
was going to go straight, but then like kind of veers off to turn to the right. And I feel like that's us every time we try to play another game, we veer off to the right, tires screeching, and instead choose something from Square Enix's catalog. So I guess that's an appropriate way to start the episode, given that, almost all of the things we're talking about, and this isn't on us and exclusively. Like this is Square Enix also just pumping out a ton of games in the end of the year that you don't really see a lot of other companies doing. A lot of other outfits and publishers are pushing stuff till the beginning of next year, but nope, you've got Square Enix with a Final Fantasy game and a Dragon Quest game in December. So
Yeah.
who knows what's going on here?
Well, and this is the same company that famously lost code for old games because they couldn't give a toot back in the day, and now all of a sudden they're redoing every game they've ever made. So
That's right.
I'm not gonna complain too much, but it actually made me think of a funny when you said that meme. I have the perfect setup for you. So the car is Switch release, Square Enix Switch releases. On the left is Final Fantasy NES and Super NES games.
Yes,
And on the right is Romancing Saga Minstrel Song.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we were just talking about that before we started recording. Yeah, another Saga game got added to the pile, right? Like
Yeah.
it's got like 10 Saga games on Switch, it feels like now.
And I'm pretty sure that Saga game, the original Saga game, is on Switch too, right? The first Romancing Saga?
I mean, this is it, right? Isn't that Minstrel Song? Like one of the first ones that came to Switch was Romancing Saga 2, actually.
Right.
That might have been because I remember picking it up like day and date, just because I was like, oh, okay, like I want to support this. I want to support this series. I want to see more of these games, so I bought it. Um, I think Minstrel Song is us getting the first
Yeah.
Romancing Saga game, like just in a different form.
Yeah, I think you're right because I'm looking it up and I see 2 and 3, but I don't see
Yeah.
1. So yeah, that must be their backwards way of doing it, I guess. Yeah, I don't put anything past Square Enix for. They do a lot of great stuff and they do a lot of head scratchers. So
We'll throw one more on the meme pile there of the swerving car. So the left lane is me, not talking about candy or treats or any goodies for a little while, and the right lane, where we're trying to turn off, is getting back to reviewing Oreos. So I've got a new one for everybody tonight. So buckle in,
perfect.
strap in. Um, this was I totally forgot I'd even bought this one. I think I was out shopping with my littlest one, and we bought a couple of Oreos. They were probably like 2 for $6 or something, and so felt justified in buying 2 packs. So he likes just the plain ones. Both my kids just like the plain kind of regular Oreos, and that's fine. So we got one of those, and then the other one was one I hadn't seen before, and so I had to get it. And it was the Neapolitan flavor.
Oh
And
yes,
and
I've
I
had
think
that.
I think
Very
you had
good.
brought this up to me at some
Yeah,
point, or it came
I
up.
texted it to you. I think
Yeah,
a few months ago. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, I know that it had been already brought to my attention, but I hadn't seen it in stores until this point. So I probably bought it about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. So it was just kind of sitting on the shelf and kind of behind everything. So I didn't even realize it was still there. I'd forgotten I bought it. But I was digging around in the shelf last night because I was looking for just something to go. I've been drinking a bunch of green tea, and I was just looking for something to have in my green tea. Um, so I pull out this yellow packaging of the Neapolitan Oreos. Um, Start reading the packaging. I'm like, okay, it's got the cookie parts are, they call them waffle cone flavored cookie, and I'm like, okay, we're off to a good start because
Yeah.
that's a good flavor of cookie right there, waffle cone. I love my waffle cones. Um, Open it up, and they're pretty thick. They're in the neighborhood of double stuff, maybe a little bit more. And they're so filled with icing, or cream, to the point that it's almost spilling out of the cookies. And so
Yes.
there's another positive sign here.
Yeah.
Two good things to start off with. So Neapolitan, like the ice cream flavor, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with. Um, Strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla, kind of one slice of cream for each of those flavors. Um, the ice cream, my dad used to buy it a bunch when we were kids growing up. And I remember, liking the vanilla, liking the chocolate, and maybe kind of flip flopping on those two, but never loving the strawberry. So we'd often have like the strawberry would be left over a little bit in the bucket, or we would just kind of leave it till the end. But the Neapolitan Oreos, oh my gosh, the hierarchy of Oreo rankings is about to change because they're in my top three. They might even be number one. They are so good.
They're really good.
I was shocked how tasty they are. And what's funny is some you bite into. I feel like you get a different experience every time you bite into one. Sometimes you get the vanilla, sometimes you get the chocolate, sometimes you get the strawberry. Maybe depending on how they're layered, or
Mhm.
which cream
Or
flavor is in a little more abundance.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they're incredible, and I was so taken aback because I hadn't had an Oreo in a long time, and hadn't had like a novelty Oreo in even longer.
Yeah.
So for this one to just be like, whoa, like this is up there with Brookio, my number one, and maybe even challenging it for that spot. Um, I've had I'm paying for it, gastro wise, but I've had about
Yeah.
a row. I've already finished a row of them, and
Oh,
I'm
I
so
don't, you can easily just start down in them. Well, and the other thing too is it's good for this time of year because the
yes,
waffle has like a gingerbread kind of taste to it, like a little bit, or
yeah,
at
and
least yeah,
I was gonna say that cookie, it's like the perfect consistency too. Like I've had problems in the past with some of the novelty flavors and the cookie being really brittle and
yeah.
like kind of powdery, sandy. This is just a solid waffle
Oh, it's
cone
yeah,
flavored cookie. Like
yeah.
it
There's
tastes
no crumbs whatsoever.
no, there isn't.
Yeah.
It just kind of it kind of mushes all together with the cream and just goes down so easily. Like yeah, I'm so impressed by this one. And yeah, just the fact that I'd forgotten about it in my shelf to pull it out and it'd be like this dream cookie was an awesome experience
You better
last night
buy
as a
every box you find because
I
they don't sell them here anymore. They were limited time and now they're gone for
it's
us.
this funny thing. Yeah, you don't know which novelty Oreo flavors are going to stick around or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem like to be a matter of how well they sell. Like they're just like, here today, gone tomorrow. So you're right. If I see it again, I am going to pick up another package or two. But man, yeah, they're so tasty. If anyone has a chance to go out and try them, please do. If you have, let us know your thoughts. Is it a high ranking one for you? Is it something you didn't like as much as the original? For me, it is well above the original Oreo. It's so good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that, and thank you for thank you for bringing that up to me when you did. But then me forgetting about it and just picking up at random is just funny to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Well, speaking of improving on an original, I know that I think have you finished this game? I believe right. You're through Tactics
I
Over
did. I
Reborn.
finished the game. I've got the review written, ready to go. I just need to sit down and record audio to get the video review out. So my Tactics Ogre Reborn review coming out soon. But yeah, we're gonna share our impressions on the game here. And I did finish it through. There are multiple endings. I just did one of them. Just in the trying to wrap up everything by the end of the year kind of phase, right? So
Hmm. Well, take us away. What's your overall impression?
yeah, so I think it got better. It kind of went up and down for a while. Like I liked it a lot at the beginning. First couple chapters, good were well paced. I thought. The third and fourth chapters they do go on for a while. They're significantly longer. I thought. Lots more battles. No, I mean not necessarily too many more cutscenes. Like I don't think this game has an abundance of cutscenes, but there's just so many mandatory combat phases in the latter half of the game that does kind of make it's going to draw it out and maybe to its detriment a little bit. My overall impression though is a positive one. This game it's almost too clever. It's almost too um not esoteric, but it has layers to it. It has a lot of hidden features and mechanics and side quests and things you wouldn't know about, and that maybe aren't signposted super well. You really have to kind of experiment and dig around yourself, or look up a guide, or just kind of talk to people who have played the game before. But yeah, Tactics Ogre Reborn is an interesting one. I went into it thinking, oh, this is it's kind of a seminal title in the tactics RPG kind of pantheon. Like this is a game that people have enjoyed the previous version of it, right? Previous versions, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also a Super Nintendo game that was remade for PSP, and then now we're getting a remaster of that version. I think that's kind of the trajectory for this one. So Tactics Ogre Reborn. It's a story filled with like political intrigue and backstabbing and what's happening with different factions in the world. But I don't find the story super compelling. I think the combat is just really really good. The presentation of the combat's fantastic. Like it's always easy to see kind of who's going where, who can do what. The percentages for abilities, selecting abilities to use, all of that stuff is really really fun. Um, Now, I say there's too much combat at the end, but more just because like you want to get to the end, you want to see kind of how the story is going to resolve. And there are certain areas where you're doing like 10-part battles, or there's one. I wouldn't call it a spoiler, but like the final two dungeons consist of like a 10-parter and a
Oh, jeez.
4-parter, and they're back to back, and you have to have prepared yourself thoroughly before you get in there, because I think if you try to go back to the end or back out to the shops or whatever, I think you have to restart the whole thing. Don't quote me on that. There are some dungeons like that where you have to restart from the beginning of the 10 segments, but um, now someone's in the audience is gonna be out there. Oh, it doesn't have to be 10 segments for that one dungeon. If you go through the secret doors, it can be 5. Okay, but it's
Yeah.
still a lot of consecutive battles. So if you are really into this type of combat and you just want more of that, you're going to love this game. Like there's tons of combat. It's fun, getting different characters and kind of changing their classes and figuring out what works best. Um, you know, fitting them in the right equipment, having the right items, and then slotting in different abilities, finishing moves. Uh, you can change everyone's elemental type. I don't even know why or how you or I know how I don't know why you would do that, but again, just something that if you dig into the game, you really kind of figure it out and sink your teeth into it. I think you could make more sense of it, I think, than I did. But yeah, definitely positive impressions, with some like caveats, I suppose.
Yeah.
What about yourself, David? How I know you played a little bit of the game so far.
Yeah, I didn't get too far into it. I was silly enough to try to attempt this while finishing Persona 5, so my attention was elsewhere at the time. But
Stood no
um,
chance at all. Yeah.
yeah, no, it had no chance. It was so I think I played like an hour or two. I got through a few of the first battles. Some of the things that stood out for me was the characters were kind of funny.
Yeah.
I can't think of their name. There's the three at the very beginning who are kind of like, I guess they're in some sort of rebellion or trying to protect their lands. And the sister is kind of pacifist, and then there's like one hothead, and then I think the other guy is the character that like we play as or you play as, kind of see through it
Yeah.
as him.
Denim is his name. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. He's the main
but
character.
the hothead is quite the chirp, and I laughed at there's so I think it's maybe the third or fourth battle. So there's like these knights that came from another land, and they join up with your cause because they're looking to make some coin,
Hmm.
and so they're kind of showing what they can do or whatever. And um, so the one of them, he's like, he guess he has wings, and so he shows up to the battle to help out, and the hot-headed guy is upset that he's there because it's like stealing his thunder or whatever. So he starts throwing rocks
That's right. Yeah.
at my character, and I'm like, what the hell? So I was expecting that. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's reminds me of like the Final Fantasy Tactics in a like a very reminiscent of that. So I'm sure like when I get a chance to really like pay attention to it, I'll enjoy it. There's a few things like that stood out in the combat. Is one was I had no idea who was actually on my team and who I was supposed to be fighting unless I like put the actual cursor on the character, be like, oh, okay, so there's the enemy's flag, so that must be the enemy. Like I felt like there wasn't enough to distinguish like, okay, is that one of the people I'm supposed to be attacking, or is that one of the people in my party?
Yeah, I mean, at least the timeline at the bottom of the screen, I think it highlights them in different colors. Like yellow is for enemies and blue is for your team. So you can kind of go to that timeline. And when you highlight a character on the battlefield, their icon on the timeline at the bottom showing when their turn is going to be, they pop up a little bit. Like they actually
Yeah,
raise up above the timeline slightly. So that's one way you can confirm. You're right. It is, that does seem something that's going to maybe part of the original game that could have been addressed more, fixed more here. And that's the kind of thing that happens with remasters is they're not top to bottom, remaking the game, right? So they're going to
yeah.
take some of the bad stuff for the things that maybe were annoying in the original releases, and that's going to carry forward. So yeah, I think that it would be nice, aesthetically or in terms of the presentation, to make it more obvious,
Distinguishable. Like even
who's
if
with
there
you.
was even if there's maybe like a red, like a very faint red glow on the enemies and
Yeah,
maybe a
yeah.
green on me or something, or even if it's like a toggle that you can turn on where like chuckleheads like me can do it. Whereas if you've played the game before and you're like, man, this is ugly, I hate this, then
Yeah.
at least you could turn it off or something. But
There are a bunch of toggles that I never turned on, but there might be something in there that assists with that. I know there are toggles for like putting like the life meters above the characters or something too. So
yeah,
there may very well be a toggle that would assist with this, but it's not part of the default settings at any rate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not gonna brag, but I got the Steam Deck version.
Oh,
So there could be mods for that too.
there you go. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
If there aren't, we're putting out the call for someone to make those
Yes.
mods, please.
Yes,
Make
I need to
make
have
David a
like a
better
faction
experience.
of Steam Deck developers, people who know these things that I
That's
can
right.
just kind of drop off my demands or needs or whatever of games where I'm like, can someone please fix this in the game I'm playing personally? Thank you.
I mean, it feels like, in terms of modding games on Steam or elsewhere, like if you've thought of it, someone else has already thought about it too,
Yeah,
and it's either in process or someone's working on it in
yeah.
some
And
way.
if I haven't thought of it, then it's been done as well
That's right.
because
Yes, exactly.
all it takes is like go on Twitter and look up whatever game it is, and you'll see the most outrageous things you've ever seen.
That's right. Yeah. And yeah, then they usually end up on YouTube, and then my kids end up finding them on YouTube too.
Yes.
They've started watching. They just love watching gameplay of like Mario 3D World, Mario Maker 2, but it's all like most of it is just mods, like where the characters look ridiculous, and somehow Kirby is in Mario Party. They were watching that today, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, as long as they're happy, I suppose.
That's funny.
Um, I was gonna say about Tactics Ogre Reborn. Yeah, it's one thing that kind of pushed it over the top for me, and I'll tell a little story here. I kind of got stuck on the final boss. Final boss is a two-parter. It's brutal. It is, and I was reading like impressions on Reddit and other places too, like other people just finding this to be an extremely challenging final boss. Um, what I did was I started playing around, and I had played around with it a little bit earlier, but I was reading about the game that one of the things they included in this remaster was a revamped AI, such that your enemies would respond more convincingly to battlefield situations. They wouldn't just kind of do dumb stuff and then you kind of just take advantage of it. And the same goes for when you set your own characters to a particular AI stance, like aggressive fighting, or a more defensive posture, or a more supportive one, whatever you choose. I set my whole team to some form of AI control, and that's how I beat the final boss. And I mean, sure, I could have just beat my head against it and figured it out. But I wanted to know, is my party actually good enough to beat this final boss before I spend hours and hours trying to do it myself? Or before I back out to a previous save or back out of all these dungeons and, grind up somehow. And I'll talk about grinding in a second too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That's pretty
the way I
interesting.
beat the final boss was with the AI. The AI is incredibly impressive, and I'm watching this battle play out and seeing the things that it's doing. And it's just like, this is fascinating to me that a tactics game like this that has an AI setting would be so advanced and so smart. I've never really seen something like that before, and that kind of elevated my rating of the game a little bit. Just knowing how clever and seeing the strategy of the AI was really impressive to me.
Yeah. Some developer in a cubicle tucked away in Square Enix somewhere is pleasantly happy to hear that. I'm sure.
You don't see many places like lauding the AI of a game. But here,
No.
here when I saw that it was called out specifically as an improvement over the original, I got to thinking like, okay, well, someone or some team clearly made this a priority, and
Mhm.
I think it paid off because the battles are compelling. Like from start to finish, every one like is a little bit different. Some of them you can even have your characters knocked off the edge and they just die, and you can't revive them. You'd have to restart the battle. Um, or there's a feature in the game where you can rewind time. I think up to a maximum of 20 turns, so you can do that to save someone, then just do different actions. But I noticed when I rewound the time in a battle, and I did like it's kind of like a butterfly effect thing. Like I would do one small change, like change the position of one character, maybe to attack from the side as opposed to the back, and that might be enough to change the pattern of the enemy's moves too. So
Hmm.
there is a lot going on there that you don't see, which is really cool. Um,
Yeah, well, I guess they'd have all that extra room that they'd really be able to improve on it. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, and I think they you already thought like the game was so well received critically that if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of idea. So what
Mhm.
small things can they do? Maybe tweak the AI is an easy one. One of the thing I'll point out that I don't love, and I'm curious to hear how you feel about this as you play more of it. You can't really grind for experience in this game because there's a constant level cap. I think it's called union level. Uh, Whatever the
Mm.
union level is the maximum level your characters can achieve. Once they've hit that maximum, the union level doesn't go up. It stays at whatever it is until like the next story beat happens. Um, and that experience that you gain while at the cap is not really banked in any way. Sometimes you can get like experience points items from if you have a lot of points, you bank a lot of points. But most of the time, the experience points just are just thrown away, and it's not a system I really like. I think that something like Xenoblade 3 does a lot better job of banking points for you to spend how you see fit. And I totally understand why you have like a gate to it in the game. You don't want people to be over leveled. You don't want the combat to seem too easy. But I always prefer that decision to be in the player's hands as opposed to taken away by the game. So
Yeah.
that is something that I'm a little bit at odds with. I'm not sure what you think about something like that, David.
Well, I definitely dislike inefficiency because it's like
Yeah.
if I'm doing the work, then I don't want to be throwing away experience or any like anything. Like if I'm grinding for items or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to think that you're just like you did that work and now you're not getting the benefit or you don't see the fruits of your labor sort of thing. Like on
Yeah.
the surface, it seems like thumbs down for me.
Hmm.
I guess we'll have to see like when I get in there how penalizing it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you really like you can hear it from me and how I feel about it, but I think too you have to experience it first to kind of know, okay, how is this impacting my enjoyment of the game, or is it, like that? So yeah,
Yeah,
I want to know more, as you get further into the game, if it's something that is off putting to you.
yeah, but I can definitely see the other side of the coin, like you said, where
Hmm.
as the developer, you don't want the user to kind of run away with the game and
Yeah, I mean, especially a
and
game like
just
this,
kind of cakewalk.
like a tactics game. Like I think generally these games are seen as being tougher, and not as new player friendly as other genres can be. Yeah, it certainly is earning that reputation here.
You
Um,
think they would go more with like a scalable AI where it's like, okay, maybe you're leveling up really quickly, and it's like, well, how about we increase the difficult, like we'll level up the enemies kind of in congruence or whatever, so that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so that way at least it doesn't feel like you're wasting away your work as opposed.
Yeah, like I said, I think we've seen other games
It's
do
all
this
different.
more elegantly, I think. And
Yeah,
I think this could be another one of those relics of just an older game being brought forward, and you don't want to change it too much because there are people that really like it. So
yeah.
yeah, I think it might just be attached to something like that, and that's fine. That's fine. Again, a really good game. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, and hopefully my review will be on NWR and our YouTube channel soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Tactics Ogre is not the only Square Enix remake or remaster that you're playing. You've got a inside look at Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Remaster.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Like I'm all over the Square Enix map here. But yeah, we were fortunate to get a PlayStation 5 code for Crisis Core. The subtitle is Reunion, which is going to be obviously a key term that they're using, as they've done with like Final Fantasy Remake and what's the new one called next year? Rebirth or something like that.
Rebirth, yeah.
Yeah, we know that these are all going to hold special meaning to the game.
Well, it's
But yeah,
funny.
what?
Nomura, there was just an interview where they were talking about these games coming out and
Mhm.
which ones are being reborn or remade and whatever, and they picked this one because of the origins or whatever to the Final Fantasy, but it's all kind of gearing towards the new Rebirth remake trilogy.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
basically trying to like get the push their tires as much as possible because when they asked about Dirge of Cerberus, Nomura was like, "Ah, that's after the game. We don't care about that.
That's right. That's right. It's
It's
not, it's
not
not
coming."
setting anything up, right? Like
Yeah,
you want to fill in all the blanks that could be prequel or side story, that they're gonna push more people to get into this remake trilogy, right? Like
well,
and that makes so much sense.
potentially not relevant anymore if the story changes too.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like I think no matter what, like this idea of Zach as a character and people wanting to know about him, he is important to, I think, no matter what Final Fantasy VII is. Like just
Oh
thinking
yeah, he's
about
in Rebirth. He's
the
going to be a
DNA.
major character in
Yeah,
Rebirth.
I
Yeah.
think we're all kind of in that line of thinking, and the fact that Crisis Core gets a remaster here,
They're
a year
really
before.
pushing it too. It's because
Yeah.
when you think of like all this, we were talking before with all the Square Enix games that have come out recently, and there's
Hmm.
been basically no push, like with review codes. Or like you can barely find a review code in the wild
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
games like Dia Field and Tactics Ogre, and there was a couple other Square Enix games that came out. But Final Fantasy VII, I saw it everywhere today.
Yeah.
Like it was insane. They're really
Yeah,
pushing it.
I mean, I was surprised. I mean, so I released a preview video. The embargo was 2 a.m. I'm like, oh, well, 2 a.m. Pacific time, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, 2 a.m. They're just sending it out to die, and it's already at
Yeah,
10,000 views, which is a lot for us. It's a lot for our channel, right? For a video within like 24 hours, already have that many views is a lot. And what it suggests is that there's a lot of interest in this game.
yeah.
Um, for people to go to a Nintendo channel we just don't have Switch codes yet, unfortunately. Like I believe we will get them soon. I hope we will get them soon, so we can do a comparison and talk about what the Switch version is going to look like. But there's just a lot of interest in this game, period. And I think I don't know if it's like a chicken and the egg kind of thing, but like, is it people who are interested in Crisis Core before Remake? Is it people that have played Remake and now they're like, I need everything Final Fantasy VII? Like what is this audience that is coming at it? And from the comments, it does seem like a lot of people are very familiar with this game, Crisis Core. So you're going to sell to fans of the original, it seems like, for sure. But are you also going to get this new audience that has come along for these new Final Fantasy games too? Well, it remains to be seen, maybe, but the interest is definitely there.
Yeah, I definitely think they have kind of a new generation of fans from Remake,
Hmm.
and this is like this Crisis Core reunion, I guess, like you said, they're calling it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I definitely think it's pushing the story, so it's kind of like a stopgap measure
Hmm.
between games because it's Rebirth isn't that far away. Really, it could be
That's
like a
right.
year from now.
It really isn't. Yeah, and then gosh, Final Fantasy 16 as well. It is
Yeah,
wild how Buck, they're just going crazy with Final
yeah,
Fantasy games. It seems like, but yeah. So the preview was able to cover the first three chapters of the game. Really, only 2 or 3 hours into it, so not too far. Um, with the review, I think is next week, or is before it's around or before launch for sure. Um, but yeah, I can't talk about anything after chapter 3. So, the beginning of the game, you meet Zach, you meet a character named Angeal, who's kind of like a mentor figure to him. You in the first chapter, it involves a kind of not competing, participating in this war on Wutai. And we know Wutai is the clan or group faction that Yuffie belongs to. And you do get to see Yuffie in the game really early, but she's just a kid, so it's kind of funny. She shows up and she's trying to fight Zack, and of course he's a uh, very capable member of Soldier, and he kind of just plays around with her, like she's doing like some punching, and he kind of like, oh, that really hurt, and then she runs off. So there are some cute moments sprinkled in. What really struck me about this game is it's the structure of its gameplay. It is not like open and freedom of exploration type of game like Final Fantasy VII, the original, was, and maybe this is closer to what Remake ended up being. Although Remake does have a little bit more exploration than this one. I think what it comes down to with Crisis Core is that this is a PSP game, and it's not a remake, right? It's a remaster of a PSP game that certainly it's gotten a very major graphical overhaul, obviously. But it's also coming to multiple platforms, so I think it remains to be seen exactly how this performs everywhere. So I did kind of want to have that warning a little bit in my preview.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's very mission based. It's very chapter and mission based, as opposed to kind of something more open with this big larger story that you're going through. It does feel like more moment to moment, as opposed to like longer story beats that kind of take a long time to develop. You're kind of going hard and fast with the events that do happen in the narrative, and then you're getting into battles very very frequently, or cutscenes very very frequently. So the player agency is something I'm, I guess, having to come to terms with a little bit. Being
Yeah.
being a traditional RPG fan.
Yeah. Now, is the combat closer to Remake's combat, or is it more of an action RPG?
I mean, it's action RPG. I'd say
Yeah.
your abilities, your spells, your items, they're all used on the fly. Like there's no stopping. There's no like
Oh,
stop to
there's no like
choose.
bullet time, like
No,
in
there's nothing like that. No.
boo.
Everything happens on the fly. Um, One interesting thing about the combat, and some people might not love this element, but I think it fits for what the game was and is. There's a random element called DMW, or Digital Mind Wave. I think that's what it is. There's a slot machine that constantly runs during combat. Uh, when the slot machine hits a certain combination, it'll give you a limit break attack, or it'll let you summon Ifrit or Bahamut or something like that, or a Chocobo. Um, or maybe a character like Aerith can come in and heal you or something. You'll get some kind of bonus like that when the slot machine kind of lines up for you. It's also it's the way that your materia levels up. It's the way Zack levels up himself. So this you have this random element that controls a lot of the game, and so it's kind of interesting to see, like, did you get a level up recently, or did you get maybe two or three in a row, just hitting the slot machine? Whether your materia level up and get to master level quicker or slower could be just a little bit of luck as well. My understanding is that there is an experience point mechanic that increases the odds of things happening, but there is still randomness to it. So something to keep in mind about the combat and progression is that it's a little bit atypical.
Yeah, that's strange.
Mm.
I've never played the. I didn't have a PSP back in the day.
Yep.
My brother had one, and I kind of fiddled around with it, but didn't never really. I never played this one, so this will be new to me. And yeah, that's an interesting mechanic. Can't think of any like other Final Fantasy that has that sort of style.
No, definitely
Um,
not. It is
yeah.
novel for sure, and I don't mind it. I think it added, yeah, just something new and a freshness to the game that helped a little bit with, I think, some of the you can see the combat getting a little repetitive. Like yeah, you can change out your moves, but the enemies I've met so far, like it's a lot of soldiers. Yeah, nothing to it. You get some Final Fantasy monsters too, which is cool, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Um, it was fun to fight summon monsters too. Like I had a battle against Ifrit, and that was a pretty cool spectacle as well. Boss enemies can sometimes have a meter that shows up, like an ability meter, and it starts off fully charged. And if you can break it down, from like 100% to 75, 50, and so on. You can break it down; it'll blunt the effectiveness of their super move, and if you can get the bar to 0, it'll actually cancel it entirely. So that was a pretty cool part of the combat. But I am concerned about the repetitive nature of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like they got a lot of neat ideas, so it'll be interesting to see the reception when the full game comes out, which is only it's like a week away or something, I
Yeah,
think now, right?
it's I think it's the 13th actually somehow. I thought it was
Oh, I
earlier
didn't
too. I thought it
know.
was the 8th or
Yeah, I
something,
didn't
but
realize. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought. I thought it was like the 7th or the 8th. I didn't realize it
It's
was the
Dragon
13th.
Quest Treasures is coming out on the 9th, I think. So
Oh,
you've got
right,
that, and then
right.
in the next week I think you have Crisis Core. So not too long to wait. One other thing I'll give you just before we wrap up on this one is that there are a lot, and I mean dozens and dozens of these individual missions that you can undertake. I wouldn't even call them side quests. They're like little training battles. Where you select a mission and it'll be like help Shinra, defend or something like that. And literally transport you to a cave, and then there'll be some treasures in the cave to pick up, and then like maybe some random battles that pop up, and then the one or two enemies you have to defeat to successfully accomplish the mission. And by winning the mission, you'll get like a key item, like a materia or an accessory to equip or something like that. There are so many of these missions; it is ridiculous. Like there's so many. I don't even know the number because they keep popping up. Every time you complete one, you'll get a new one. As you play the game and talk to people, or just move further in the game, you get more of these missions. So there is content to do for those who want to do it. I think that I think we looked up how long to beat for the original
Oh,
version,
the gap was
and there was a
ridiculous.
huge gap between the main game and
Yeah.
then main game plus extras, and it
It
looks
was
like
like
they've
20 hours and like 80 or something.
yeah,
Like
and
it
I
was
can see why.
ridiculous.
And that 80 is wrapped up in these individual missions because there's so many of them. They
Yeah.
scale up in difficulty as well, so it seems like that could even be like maybe a post game thing as well, is just going back and doing all the missions as you get stronger. So yeah, there is content here for sure. But check out my preview NWR TV on YouTube. Let me know what you think in the comments there, and full review coming soonish.
Yeah, it sounds good. So yeah, those are the games that have come out, but we also have, as in particular, Square Enix, but also Atlas, a lot of remade games coming. It's so I wanted to jab in here the Final
Please don't.
Fantasy picture matches because we're so close to me winning this bet. We're like 1 month to the day almost as of the recording, so I had to stick it to you a little bit. I'm sorry. Um,
We've got one more opportunity, right? We've got the Hail Mary here. The Hail
the
Mary
Hail Mary.
is the
So
the
you
Game
think
Awards, right? The game they
Game
get announced at
Awards?
the Game Awards
Oh,
somehow. It's not out of
mm.
the realm. I don't think it's going to happen.
What day? The Gamer Awards?
Again, I want to say like 6 or 7.
Okay, just
It's
because
the
I'm
first week.
thinking Dragon Quest Treasures is the 8th, Crisis Core is the 13th.
Yeah.
I'm thinking your only chance is like a Boxing Day Shadow Drop.
No, that's what I'm saying. You shadow drop them at the Game Awards, right? December 8th, December 8th. So,
Oh man,
about a week from now, we may the Hail Mary may come to pass, and
maybe
uh,
there's
you get
there's
shadow
definitely going to
dropped.
be a Final Fantasy 16 event
Yeah.
because Yoshi P is going to be. Who they just announced Yoshi P is going to be at the Game
Oh,
Awards.
cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to
So
that then.
clearly, there's going to be like a Square Enix thing. So
Hey,
maybe, but
I mean, stranger things have happened, and
yeah.
if any company was going to overload Final Fantasy into the last month of 2022,
Yeah.
you know it would be these guys,
If
right?
if
So
any company was going to cut off Dragon Quest treasures at the knees the day
Yes, yes.
before launch. Yes, this is definitely the company that would do it.
That's like a classic Square versus Enix decision, right? Like Enix is like, oh, we're gonna put it out on the 9th, and Square, the old Square guys are like, no, 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 let's take the rug out from under these
Y-
Enix folks, and
You know what everybody wants is more Final Fantasy.
that's right. Hey, you can't have enough, right? And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, like the Pixel remasters coming out, they're very different from Crisis Core. Like to be fair, those audiences don't necessarily overlap. So,
No, I don't.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no, no, no,
if it happened, I wouldn't be the most shocked person in the world. Like I think
no.
there's a path to it. So but you're right. You're probably good, and I'll have to make a new bet for next year because if they don't come out next year, I'm just going to quit playing video games entirely. But yes, thank you for
Yep.
that.
We also got Romancing Saga Minstrel Song. So this is I don't even know when this one's. I think it's coming out this week or next week.
Yeah,
A few
I
days, I
got to be
think
the
actually.
first. I think it's got to be the
Yeah.
first.
And then so this is it was funny when I looked this up. This is a remaster of a PS2 game, which is the remake of the original Romancing Saga on Super Nintendo. So we're getting 3 sides from Sunday remake of the original Romancing Saga. So yeah, it was funny. I watched when I went to to look it up. It reminded me of being in the trailer for one of the Nintendo Directs with
Mm.
like the bard that's just kind of walking for, like through different towns.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that really stood out to me. Which is funny to think back because I can't tell you the Nintendo Direct it was in. I can't tell you what else was in the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
All I
Yeah.
remember is that guy playing his lute or
Well,
his guitar
hey,
or whatever it
they
was.
did something right. If that's the only person you're remembering, right? Like
Yeah, that's
whoever
right.
did
Yeah,
that
they
trailer
nailed
for
that one.
Mitchell song, yeah, they did the right thing.
Yep. So yeah, and then there's the new games Dragon Quest Treasure, but then we got the Final Fantasy Crisis Core. I'm curious if we're with all these things being remade, we still haven't heard anything about Final Fantasy Tactics. Is this a 2023 release? Do you think?
I mean, entirely possible. Like they threw everything but the kitchen sink, and maybe they brought the kitchen sink as well this year. Um, Tactics remake coming next year makes sense because you did Tactics Ogre this year, right? So
Yeah.
why not follow that up? Especially if Tactics Ogre did okay, do the Tactics FF Tactics remake
Yeah.
now.
It
Uh,
sounds like it did do well. Like
yeah,
I'm seeing it all over social media, so it's like
Yeah, what's
some
funny is
people must
every
be
time I'm
playing it.
on, I don't know if it's Twitter or Reddit, I'm seeing ads on Reddit, I think, all the time for this game. So they're
Yeah.
definitely putting some, if I don't know when that advertising campaign started, but the fact that it's still going suggests that there is some marketing push for this game still. So I mean, this was their last boxed game, and a bit before Final Fantasy Crisis Core. So yeah, I imagine that it is doing okay. I'd be surprised otherwise. I think it's probably, I could see it cannibalizing Harvestella a little bit because
Yeah.
it's got the name recognition to it, and Harvestella being an IP, a new IP,
Brand new, yeah.
and then not having a lot of critical. Not that it didn't do well
Well, they
critically. It
just
did.
didn't push it much.
That's what I mean. There were no.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of write ups about the game,
No.
and we talked about that before. So
Mhm.
yeah, the Final Fantasy Tactics remake coming next year would not surprise me in the slightest. Square Enix seems very open to bringing old games back. That
Yeah.
just seems their mo right now.
Well, and they got Dragon Quest 3, which I don't think they've given a set timeline for when that's coming, but it sounded, I remember not too long ago, there was things that were hinting that it made it seem like next year we would probably end up seeing that
I
2D
mean,
HD
I
remake.
think some people thought it might even be this year, just because we didn't know. There wasn't really an indication of when it is coming. Just
Yeah.
soon.
Unless they're
Um,
holding it for the next Dragon Quest, like if it's closer than we think, sort of thing. Have them come out
yeah,
around the same time or something,
I
or a
mean,
lead up to it.
I don't think we're going to get 12 next year. I think that's 2024. But
Yeah.
I'd be very confident in saying I think we'll get Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D next year. I think that is coming next year. I think it looked pretty good in the slice that we saw, and we just haven't heard a lot about it. So hopefully that means no news is good news kind of thing. I think we'll see that next year too.
Yep. And then we've to kind of wrap up our discussions about the past coming back to the present. We got the Atlas Personas coming. So we've been talking nonstop on the pod about Persona 5, but we now have Persona 4 and Persona 3 Portable coming out too in
Mm.
January. I believe they're both coming out in January, same
I
time
think
in
it's like the
January.
19th or something like that, which is
Oh
like
man,
a day or
soon.
two before Fire Emblem. Like it's
Yeah,
silly.
and then Octopath 2 I think is in January too, isn't it? Or early February, something like that.
February. I think it's February. There's a bunch of stuff in February around the same time. I was just reading about something else that's coming um mid to end of February as well, and it got me really frustrated. What
Yeah.
was it? Oh my
I
god.
don't I don't remember so many games coming out in January. Like January and February have always kind of been slow. The Christmas is over, so nobody's really putting stuff out sort of time.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like it seems like every week we're learning about a new release coming in like the first 3 months of the year. And I'm like, man, there's too much coming. Like I can't play all this.
So what choked me up, and I know why I learned about this date. I was looking for Yakuza games this afternoon on to see which ones run PS Plus,
Yep.
and basically all of them except six were on PS Plus. But,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I own six physically, so it's fine. I just popped in the
Oh,
physical
okay.
version to play around with FF6, not FF6, jeez, Yakuza 6. Like a Dragon, the spin-off one, which I think is set in feudal Japan, maybe, or at least some past time. It's not a contemporary game. That's February 21st. That's 3 days before Octopath.
Oh,
So
jeez.
that's another one, right? Like just add fuel to the fire. But
Oh
you've
man.
got Theater Rhythm on the 16th. You got Tales of Symphonia Remastered on the 17th.
Yeah.
Man, it's just not
Oh,
even fun anymore.
I know we were about to talk about Atlas, but it just hit me that
Yeah,
on PlayStation Plus, a whole ton of Square Enix games came out.
yeah.
I downloaded all the Kingdom Hearts on my
Yes,
PS5.
that's right. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
There
I
was
saw that
another one
today.
too. I can't think of what it is now, but I couldn't believe all these Square Enix games. Oh, there was a couple. I think there was a Dragon Quest. I think like the new Dragon Quest 11,
Yep,
because like Dragon
yep. I
Quest
saw
11
that too.
first came out for PlayStation, and then there was like a different version for Nintendo Switch, and then there was like a third version for the PS5 or something, and then that was on in the PS Plus. So
That's
I
cool. Yeah, and
downloaded
then
that. So
Builders 1 and 2, I think, is on there as well. Dragon
yes,
Quest
yeah,
Builders. Yeah, those are great.
couldn't believe all the games that dropped there. I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's awesome.
And it's funny, like it's awesome, but like, why aren't they talking about this? Like, why aren't you constantly
I
advertising?
know.
Have you seen any advertising for
No,
PS
I didn't
Plus
even.
Premium? I haven't seen
The
anything.
only reason I knew they were there is because I went looking for Black Friday sales and
Yeah,
just happened to notice that they were there, and I couldn't believe it. And it's funny too because the for PlayStation Plus, like I bought my PlayStation yearly thing and at Christmas like
yeah,
last
that's
year.
right. That's right.
So it's coming up for renewal, and now I'm sitting here looking at like 10 games I want to play, and then, well, now I got to renew,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
seems like the perfect advertisement for Sony to be like, hey, look at all these Square Enix games, guys. I bet you there's like half of our clientele need to renew on Christmas because everybody probably signed up when they got the new, uh, you know.
I mean, you can't be a Game Pass killer or even competitor if you don't talk about yourself.
Yeah,
Like Game
that's
Pass is
right.
constantly being advertised, but and even the Game Pass on PC. Like I feel you're constantly getting messages about those things you can buy for Xbox, but there's nothing about PS Plus or the various tiers.
Yeah,
I think they've really dropped the ball there because the library isn't bad. And it seems to be getting better. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I downloaded Dead Cells. I played like an hour of Dead Cells for the first time.
that's right.
I hadn't played
Been
that game
forever.
before. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of good things about this. It's free here. I don't know what tier you have to be to get it, but and I still hate the way I go into the PlayStation Store on my PS5 and trying to find the games that are free to me is such a pain in the butt. Like that's
yeah.
another thing. Is just the discoverability is horrible if you are a PS Plus member. Like,
Much easier if you use the app. I
yeah,
use
yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I do everything over the app now, and I just push it right to the PlayStation because it's so much quicker.
I love that the app tells me when something is downloaded too. It's such a
Yes.
nice little feature. Like
Yeah.
if I go away from my console and I see that app pop up or the notification, like, oh,
Shows the progress,
Yakuza
and
Six
then
has
yeah,
finished downloading. I'm like, fantastic, let's go.
yeah,
But yeah, PS Plus is still kind of an anomaly, and I think they could certainly do a better job of advertising it.
yeah.
But you were
So
mentioning
that
Persona 4 and 3. What are you going to
yeah.
do here? Are you going to play both? One? What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely playing 3
Yeah.
because I keep trying to play it, and whatever reason, I always get stopped after a few hours. But
Yeah,
I always like I'm enjoying my stuff, but something distracts me, and knowing that I'll have like a full version of it on my Steam Deck, I definitely know I'm going to get through it this time. I was gonna have like a little mini, I guess, last call for you because I know we both played Persona 4 not that long ago.
that's right. Yeah, it
Last
was
year,
fairly
maybe?
recent. Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
last year?
I think it
But
was. I think it was. Yeah.
then I read that it is getting like even the version that like I don't know if you played this. I played the Steam version. I don't know if you did,
No, I
but
was playing on my Vita. I finished on my
oh,
Vita again.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
because the Steam version is getting upgraded. Like it's gonna have a quick save so that you don't
Oh,
have
that's
to
cool.
actually like go to a save spot. You can just
Right,
save
right.
anywhere,
That's nice. Yeah.
and it's gonna have new graphics.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, these are two games that what I would do is I would just buy both because I will play them eventually, and probably just play whatever we're all playing and maybe do an episode on.
Yeah,
It's been longer, obviously, since I've played Persona 3 Portable, and I think I've only finished it through once. Um, so I definitely want to revisit that game as well, and maybe make some new choices. Persona 3 Portable, correct me if I'm wrong, that has the female protagonist in
yes,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
so I know I've played the game through with the male protagonist, so I'll probably do a female protagonist run because I think there are some interesting changes when you change the protagonist there. So I'll
yeah,
probably do a run that way just to see what's different about it as well. Um, and yeah, I have a fondness for that game, and I kind of want to, having played 5 and then 4 again, I want to see where does Persona 3 Portable slot into my kind of rankings of those games.
yeah, yeah. I would
Yeah.
definitely pay both, and even like Persona 4 isn't terribly long for like
No,
RPG standards. I
I
think
mean,
we did it in
Persona
like
5
40-ish
is obviously
hours. So
dwarfs both of them, right? So,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So
but again, think of Persona 3 Portable was specifically made for PSP as well, right? So it's a
yeah,
game that it's going to be a little bit more bite-sized. And I think they changed something that was frustrating about previous releases where you couldn't control the other characters. I think you can in
yeah, you
this
can
one,
in
right?
this,
So, yeah,
but
that
there's
was a good
no.
change.
So I guess the difference is like in portable, you can't walk around. Like it's just like dots on the map that you choose, so you don't
That's right,
actually.
and it's
Yeah,
it's menuing, right? You're menuing when
yeah,
you get to like the town or the shopping mall. You
yeah.
menu to where you want to go next
And
specifically.
no, and the anime scenes from the original are not in portable. And I'm
Right.
kind of
Yes.
hoping that someone mods them back into the Steam Deck version. Like
Yeah. And
it seems like
again,
something that
speak
would be
you speak
easy.
it, it shall appear, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So maybe I'll wait
unfortunately,
like 2 weeks after it comes out on Steam, and then I'll
that's
play
right.
PS3 or Persona 3, and then it'll have all that stuff worked back in.
I think what I might do, I have like this plan for Persona 4 where I'm gonna kind of like play the game like almost one day at a time and just kind of journal it out a little bit. Like it's part of like a book pitch I'm working on that I kind of want to see through here. So what I might do is just play like a tiny bit at a time, like literally like 1 or 2 in-game days per days in my life or our lives. So we'll see if I can actually do something like that. But I'm definitely not going to like rush through it and beat it in a couple weeks or something like that. It's going to be
Yeah.
a slow burn game for me that maybe I check in and on every once in a while. But Persona 3 Portable, I'm gonna pick up and play right away for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's our January and February, I guess, set up
Every time I
partially.
look at what's coming or we talk about what's coming in January and February, I just get upset. Like
Yeah.
like, I look at these lists, I'm like, it's just silly. So Persona 3 and 4, January 19, Fire Emblem Engage is the next day. It's like, why
Oh
are you
my
doing
god.
this to me? It just
Yeah.
sucks. Um Forspoken, I don't know if you have any
Oh
interest in
yeah.
Forspoken, but
I was
that
gonna get it. I think I even pre-ordered it potentially.
I have a prayer of that game too. I just don't know if I'm going to enjoy it or not. That's one of those like wait and see what reviews say. But
Yeah.
it's 4 days after January 24th. Um,
It
there's
looks pretty
another.
awesome, like visually anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and it's Square Enix, so we have to at least consider it.
Yeah.
Um, there's another Story of Seasons. The Dead Space remake is January 27th. I'm interested in that. I think that's the original Dead Space is one of the greatest horror games ever made. I think. So
Okay.
I'm definitely interested in that remake. And then February, and then you go right into February with Theater Rhythm. Like I said, Tales of Symphonia, Like a Dragon, Octopath. Just stop. Just please stop. And again, that's what we know. Those
Yeah.
are mostly retail games. When we find out the indie games that are coming, who knows what it's going to even look like. So
Well,
I'm already
what
frustrated.
the one that I think we both signed up for the Kickstarter, and the name's escaping me. It's the Montreal dev.
Oh, Sea of Stars.
Yeah, that's come. That's I don't think it's
I don't think
early
it's early
2023.
either. I
I think
think
it's
it's
summer now.
Yeah, I think or even later. They're letting that one cook for sure. I went to a
Yeah,
preview event, and just the tone and kind of how they were wording it. It did sound like they're not rushing this game at all. Like this is going to come out when it's ready. They know everyone's super jacked about it. Um, I could see a holiday or
yeah,
October September release for this one, but
it's gonna do
yeah,
pretty good when it
it's
does
gonna be
come out.
great.
Yeah.
When you said Kickstarter, I thought you were going to talk about Aiden Chronicle, the
Oh yeah, that's got to
Suikoden
be coming too.
remake kind of
Well, and then
that's next year too, right?
Suikoden
And then
Suikoden
an
is
actual Suikoden
yes.
remaster. Oh gosh, yeah,
Well, both
good.
of them, the for 1 and 2 are
1
coming
and
out.
2, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
We'll have to, I mean, again,
Oh
they feel
god.
like must-play podcast games for sure, but
Yep.
every time we say that, like an angel loses his wings or something, or his or her wings, we're
I
really
lose 40
sabotaging
hours of my
ourselves,
life.
right?
That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We'll have to do one episode on both or something, like, just to
Yep.
preserve our sanity.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see. I've played the first one on my Vita. I finished it. I didn't think it was remarkable, and I think part of that was like I was playing it with a guide in trying to like recruit all the characters, and I just didn't
Oh
find
yeah.
that super fun. Like I wish I'd kind of just played it more solo. But
It feel like too
apparently,
much work at that
I
point.
mean, it sounds like two is the best game, right? Like it's like a one of those
Yeah, I heard the
all
second
timer
one's better.
RPGs,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
know, who is it? Jason, it'll come to me. Uh, Journalist, writer,
Oh, Schreier?
yeah, Schreier. I think it's like one of his favorite games of all time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, people speak very highly of Suikoden 2. So for it to be getting it looked like a substantial remaster, right? From the images we've seen, it's looks pretty sweet. So,
Yeah. And here I thought Konami didn't make games anymore.
oh man, they're right back on track here. Like they're winning back some of that goodwill. They've lost all those pachinko machines. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
it's just
man.
a matter of time until they announce like more Metal Gear remasters, remakes, or something coming too. So,
Yeah.
but I guess that'll take us to the end of this episode. So fun to kind of go over some impressions of the remaining RPGs in the calendar, and look ahead a little bit to what is coming in the new year and onward. And we're going to keep doing a little bit of that, obviously, as we get more and more excited about the potential for 2023. Um, are you? I know we mentioned the Game Awards, David. Are you gonna? How do you usually watch the whole thing? You leave it on in the background. How do you treat the Game Awards?
Yeah, background if anything. Like I can't just sit and watch it. It's too much advertising for me.
Yeah, I would be in that same boat, but there's a contest. Steam is running a contest where you can win a Steam Deck, and you have to be watching it, I guess, via Steam.tv. And I
Oh,
guess if they
really?
call your name in the chat, then I guess you can win, but you got to be watching it there. So I might be watching it,
Well, it's worth it.
with one eye open, just to see if I can win a Steam Deck there. So
Yeah.
their promotion might have worked on me, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat of just not. I'm never super invested in it, but curious to see if there's any announcements and yeah, how many awards Elden Ring is going to win. I guess I would like to see that. But
You mean not all of them?
yeah, well, God of War is going to win a bunch, I think, too. So
Yeah.
it's a tough kind of toss up between those two. Um, but yeah, thanks everybody for listening. If you haven't already, leave a like, or a rating, comment on your podcast app for our podcast. That would be fantastic. You can check us out we are on Spotify as well. You can even leave questions, I believe, for us on Spotify that we can bring up on the podcast. That'd be fun. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, David at thethirstymage.com for email also works. You can find my stuff at nintendoworldreport.com. Again, we're going to have a Final Fantasy Crisis Core Reunion full review in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that as well. But that'll do us for another episode. Again, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.